Before I actually move to those, just announcement from the chairman, which is that this is a meeting of the council held in public. It's not a public meeting. There's no fire drill plan, so if the alarm does sound, please leave by the exit nearest the large screen at the front of the room and proceed down the fire exit to the courtyard. Once it's safe to return, councillors will receive a text message. Officers will also advise when it's safe to return to the meeting. We are recording the meeting this evening using our webcasting system. The webcasting will be transmitted and will be available on the council's website following the meeting. Please can I ask that all mobile devices are switched off or set to silent so the meeting is not interrupted by ringtones. So, moving on to the agenda itself, we have, as I say, a number of items. First of all, though, any declaration. I've not had any apologies for absence. Any declarations of interest?
Yes, Chairman. There's two of us from Essex County Council.
Take the normal Essex County Council thing is done, and I have to declare an interest for an item which is when it comes to Mayflower School, as my daughter goes there. So for that item, I shall recuse myself from the meeting.
Just on the apologies, Councillor Schrader's running late, but he's coming.
Thank you. I will then speak for Councillor Schrader because I know that he also has a declaration of interest, which his daughter goes to the same school. So again, he will recuse himself when we come to that particular item. Thank you. You've seen the minutes of the meeting that was held on the 10th of February. Is everybody happy for me to sign those minutes? Thank you very much. Item 4, the update on planters and statue. Mr. Noon. Mr. Toon.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, last year the Area Committee funded the replacement of the statue, and basically it's just an update to the Area Committee, just to let you know the status of that. So we're at the stage now where they've produced the mould, and I'm more than happy to circulate that. Obviously, it's not in the same form as the previous statue, and the estimated costs exceed the amount that we allocated, or the Area Committee allocated, but I have assurances that any shortfall will be covered, and the new total is £15,650. And any more questions on that? And like I said, I'm more than happy to circulate the example statue. I believe some councillors may have already seen that.
Does anybody have any questions on the statue? Councillor Lawrence?
Thank you, Chairman. Just, I mean, have we got a timescale in terms of? I've seen the statue. Have we got a timescale for delivery?
No. They sent through a revised costings, but with no timescale. So what I'll do is I'll go in and say that all the councillors are happy to proceed, and please can you provide an updated timescale?
All members happy with that approach? Okay, superb. Thank you very much. And the planters?
Yeah, we agreed to purchase 2 new planters on Billericay High Street, and my colleague Jenny Squibb has been liaising with the Town Council, and they propose actually replacing 2 planters outside of Poundland to be more in fitting with the other planters on the High Street. So it was just really to get clarification and confirmation whether the Area Committee are okay to proceed with the replacement of 2 existing planters, or would you prefer to withdraw that funding application and return the money back into the Area Committee fund?
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I think it would be a really good idea to replace those 2 planters. They're very old-fashioned and they're very large and not really in keeping with the rest of the planters in the High Street. So I would fully support that.
Any other members have a differing view or a strong view either way? Okay, so we're going to replace the ones outside plan. Thank you very much. Next item, community spotlight. I'm looking around. I don't see anybody from Humankind Cafe, so the spotlight on Humankind Cafe is going to be a very short one, i.e. non-existent. So that brings us straight away to... Pardon? They're going to come next term, apparently. Okay, thank you. So we now move on to the funding considerations then, which is the meat of what we're here for. We have 8 items for consideration. The first item, welcome Councillor Schreider, just in time. The first item is a proposal for a £38,000 investment to fund 50% of a 2-person pride team for the Billericay area. This pride team will be fulfilling part of the neighbourhood services function and will allow councillors and ward councillors to have more of a say and more control over the cutting and grass cutting, the things that irk the public essentially when it comes to overgrown shrubbery, alleyways that are occluded, etc., etc. It'll be soft landscaping, cutting back and removing overgrowth, deep cleaning, weed spraying and edging of pathways. If the funding is agreed, then the works undertaken within each area committee boundary through a monthly work setting progress update with myself and yourselves will actually then be done and providing regular updates to the area committee on the works that have been undertaken. So the proposal is to actually fund that, but does anybody want to speak on that or have any questions beforehand? Councillor Headley.
I probably should know the answer to this, Chairman, but is this funding the only funding for Pride Team, or is this additional to a schedule of work that was going to be done by the Pride Team anyway?
Mr Henry.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for your question, Councillor. So the proposal essentially is that for funding half of the Pride Team, you get a whole Pride Team. The neighbourhood supervisor, so myself and Rob have been along to these meetings previously to talk about the move to a neighbourhood services model for street cleansing and associated services. The expectation is that the neighbourhood supervisor, if approved, myself, Rob and the neighbourhood supervisor for Billericay will meet with the chair of this committee to talk about priorities for your areas and where they will be deployed, but essentially there will be, you are topping up to enhance that to a Pride team for Billericay to undertake those works on your behalf.
Did you want to come back, Councillor Headley?
It's quite a complicated answer to follow, but I've always assumed that the Pride team covers the whole of the borough, and there would have been a budget, and it would have been split possibly ward by ward. So is that funding still there for the Pride team? And is this, we're being asked to fund, is an additional requirement, or is it instead of? Because I can't remember the last time I saw a Pride team in my ward.
And I think that that's what this proposal seeks to redress, is that previously the work of the Pride team would have been they're determined by the relevant portfolio holders. So typically 80% of the funding comes through the general fund, 20% comes through the HRA. So it would be for the 2 portfolio holders to agree to that work plan for the year. The proposal is that each of the area committees choose or not choose to part fund a Pride team and enhance that service, and then agree where the works happen in terms of priorities within your individual wards. So hopefully that helps.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Chairman. Could we clarify what the process is going to be when I want a footpath cleared? How do I go about doing that?
You stole the question I was going to ask, Mr Henry.
Thank you, Councillor. So you will have access through normal councillor inquiries, but also if there are areas which are becoming more of an issue, the proposal is that we meet probably on a monthly basis with the chair of the Billericay Area Committee to plan ahead for work, so that then we can provide updates at these meetings to say, in the last month, 6 months between each meetings, here are the works which we have done within the boundaries of each area committee. So the expectation is that if funded, the neighbourhood supervisor will be coming back with a bit of a presentation to every area committee meeting to say, you said this and here's what we've done in your area. So you've got a powerful set of, they're very good at taking photos of things before and after, so you've got those things to be able to take back to your, here's what we've done in your area.
So if I'm interpreting that, did you have another question? Sorry, Councillor Moore. Did you have a follow-up?
I'm just going to clarify that. So that means for my footpath, I come to you.
Well, that was what I was going to say. So the way it appears to me, and please correct me if I've got this wrong, if any member has an issue, either through residents contacting them or one they've seen themselves, they would come to me as the first port of call. I actually collate that. I have a meeting with Mr. Hendry once a month. We say, right, this needs doing, this needs doing, this needs doing. In a perfect world, I then get the following month the report that it's all being done. If it's not done and people are unhappy, then we come back to you and say this is not happy. The only question I've got is, if it continues to be not done, what is the recourse? Do we have the ability to say, right, that's it, this has gone horribly wrong, we're not going to fund it anymore, or what's the situation if it goes horribly wrong?
Thank you, Chairman. So I think that the only thing that I would caveat outside of that is if there's something that's an emergency health and safety issue, if there's some low-hanging bramble that's at eye height or something on a cycle path, then we'd want to know about that sooner. So please log that through councillor inquiries. The funding proposal is for a 12-month period, so there's no obligation beyond that point. This is a commitment for the financial year 25-26. Obviously, anything beyond that would need further decisions. So obviously the funding proposal is for 12 months.
Thank you. Before I know Councillor Headley wants to come in, I suppose my concern is I've got little faith in council inquiries dealing with it in a speedy manner if it is a health and safety issue. I've got a lot of faith in me ringing you up and saying there's a health and safety issue here, can we get it sorted? So it seems to me the fast track approach would be a direct in to the person who's responsible for it rather than going through a secondary process of council inquiries.
Thank you, Chairman. So I think as part of obviously if the funding is approved tonight, the first port of call will be to set up an introductory call to the neighbourhood supervisor who is responsible for Billericay to make that contact. So you have that contact, you have that accountability, and then we perhaps meet more formally on a monthly basis to review workloads and work plans that are coming up.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Headley.
It's in danger of becoming a bit of a pedant on this. Can you just clarify, you mentioned that some of it was going to be 20% is going to be funded by the HRA?
Apologies, just to be clear, the funding I was talking about, 20% of the overall budget for all Pride teams, that includes a couple of Pride teams that are just working on housing, which aren't related to the funding that we're seeking today. So I think in general I'm talking about the whole of the Pride teams and how they're funded. What we are seeking here is part of the general fund works to be undertaken on council highways. So yeah, apologies. I probably shouldn't have brought that in, but I think it's muddied the waters. The HRA bits that are funded are outside of the work that we're asking for a contribution towards.
Okay, so for example, the Arlington Way estate in my ward, Danny's ward, that's going to be funded through the HRA, and any work on that estate will already be covered without us asking for it.
The HRA funded Pride teams typically do they do minor repairs in flat blocks and things like that. They do some of the dumping that's up on upper levels of flats and things like that. So they do clearances, things. They tend to do sort of minor repairs and works predominantly to the council's housing stock and communal areas, rather than the types of Pride team work which are detailed here, which are typically picked up by the normal Pride teams. So it's more on the highway stuff, although it's housing land, if that makes sense.
Councillor Mordecai.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If there's an emergency now, like a cycle path needing clearing, would come to you and the money comes out of the central budget, yes? If we approve this tonight and that same thing happens, it's an emergency, where does that money come from? What we're donating, or does it still come out of the central budget?
So I think that the team will have, half of the budget is already there. The other half of that to top that up from half a team to one team. Now with half a team, I've got to split that between Billericay and somewhere else. Myself and Rob, we're doing the rounds of all the area committees at the moment with the same proposal. So it'd be a case of saying, well, if we only get urgent works, that's all we've got the capacity for. There's no capacity to do any proactive works, and ultimately you would receive less work done for you in your wards if there's no decision to fund that. I think that's the honest answer.
Did you ever come back, Councillor Mordecai? Well, one other question is, from a purely governance point of view, how does the accounting work? We are actually giving up £38,000. Will there be a running tally of where that money has been spent and how it's been spent? Or is it just a case of you spent £38,000, you've had a service, that's it, and you know it's all very esoteric? What is the checks and balances for knowing that the money has been spent and utilised by the councillors representing their wards?
Thank you, Chairman. Good question as ever, and I think that the finances on this are paying for half of a two-man team and van and tools. That's what you get for that. There won't be anything over and above that. We're not going to come back for any additional equipment. If equipment needs replacing throughout the year, that will be picked up through normal replacement programs. I guess the checks and balances you get are those monthly updates where the team says you have raised 10 requests and here are 10 completed requests, or these are the works which have been done which haven't been requested and are fed back to you. So the checks and balances come through that side of things, and you know, ahead of any, you know, assuming we will be back here in 12 months' time, the decision that you have to make is whether that was value for money or not based on the work that was completed. But my team are prepared to be available and transparent in terms of the work that they're reporting back to you and participation in that work setting process. So hopefully that helps with that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Henry. Councillor Barnes.
Yeah, just on the monthly point, is there a way to get, because I know you mentioned that the Pride teams take pictures, etc., etc. Is there a way to get those pictures a bit quicker? Because what I'd be interested in, you know, if we're going to spend this kind of money, obviously the public are going to say to us, what are we getting for this, you know, £38,000? It would be really nice to be able to, you know, post a picture and say to, you know, email a picture to a resident or put a picture on Facebook and say this is what the Pride team have done today or this week or whatever it might be. And if we're able to have that immediacy, even if it's a case of, you know, we can have a contact in the Pride team who'll just WhatsApp it to one of us and we can then, you know, we can then use the image. Is that something that's possible?
I think it's something I'd encourage from the teams as well, to have those good working relationships with elected members within the wards that their Pride teams are working, to be able to feed back those you said we did. This is about providing those services that are valued by residents, particularly in terms of the green and growing and soft landscaping. So yeah, I think it's a good idea, and I think it's one that's well worth picking up with the neighbourhood supervisors should you approve this, and we're getting a room together to start talking about how we're going to work.
I mean, certainly from my point of view, my preference would be that if it's approved, that we have a conversation about how the team itself can meet the councillors in general, whether it's a bulk meeting of all 9 ward councillors, or whether it's hived off into the separate wards so they can actually, you know, have an icebreaker and familiarisation process so that the ward councillors can talk to them right from the get-go about what evidence they have and what their issues are, the areas that in their experience they've missed, because then the team can hit the ground running and it's building a relationship right from the start. So that would be a preference.
I think I'd welcome that, Chair, and I think that that relationship with the neighbourhood supervisors is key to that, because they've got links in with not just the Pride teams, and they're not just looking through that, but if there are other things that are coming up that they need to be picking up on through normal street cleansing, grounds maintenance, trees, any of the other works that are within their remit, then those are things that they would you know, be able to pick up and talk to you about anyway. I'd like that relationship to be formed, definitely.
Thank you, Mr Henry. Any other members want to speak? Okay, so those in favour of the £38,000 investment to fund 50% of a 2-person Pride team, please raise your hands. That is unanimous. Thank you very much, members. Item 2 is a request for £8,127.60 funding for the 5th Billericay Scout Group to soundproof their building, which would come from the Billericay Believe in Basildon Fund, which is a capital fund. Having sort of had conversations and thought about this, I think what we've got to be mindful of is that there are a number of organisations coming to us for money, and we only have a small slice of pie. And as we've just seen with the Pride team, and when we talk about the crunch later, these are all things that we are being asked to fund, which actually are supernumerary to the actual projects that are coming forward. And certainly if we actually funded every single request we had, we would run out of money immediately and almost be in deficit. So I think we need to have a principle as to the amount of funding that we're giving to organisations, how we actually go about it. My view, and certainly with some initial discussions with colleagues, would be that we agree to fund £2,000 to the Scout Group, and that the Scout Group then raise the money through their own auspices for that. And if the Scout Group are not able to raise that money, then that £2,000 would come back into the pot. So therefore, we're making a contribution to something. We're not funding the whole project. But of course, you know, I'm happy for members to give their view and to contribute. Any members want to speak? Councillor Barnes.
Yeah, I fully endorse that approach. I think it's sensible to offer some partial funding. £8,000 is obviously a high proportion of the committee's budget. We can, as you rightly say, we can't fund every request we get, no matter how worthy it might be. So I fully endorse that approach, and I'm happy to support that proposal.
Any other members want to speak? Okay, all those in favour? Thank you, members. Again, that is unanimous. The next request, item 3, is a £10,950 request from the Norsey Wood Society for car park and woodyard improvements and modifications. Again, this is the principle we've just really spoken about. There's a number of modifications they're looking at, including a car park visual barrier gabions, a woodyard fence replacement, and the cost to that. And again, I think that to be consistent and also be cognizant to the amount of money we've got, that if we funded the rustic boards themselves and the gabions themselves, and then that leaves the Norsey Wood Society to provide the fence installation and the works in that regard, it allows them to do something, and it's contributing to the Norsey Wood Society without particularly breaking our bank. But again, open for discussion amongst members. Councillor Headley.
I support your proposal, Chairman. I actually sit as a member on the Norsey Wood Society Committee, and the state of the car park at the moment is appalling, and I think the council should consider regrading the car park. And as far as the woodyard's concerned, I would have thought that would again be the council that should be providing the separation and any fencing. Norsey Woods is a volunteer organisation. The work they do is supervised by one of the officers in the parks team, but essentially they're very limited to the work they can carry out. So I think your proposal covers a proportion of the work they want done, but I think we should ask officers to really consider the entrance driveway and the car park surface itself, which is badly in need of repair.
Is that something that you're responsible for, Mr. Henry, or something you can influence?
Beg your pardon, sorry, could you repeat the question?
I was just saying that the drive into Norsey Woods and the car park is in a very poor condition. The council did supply 4 cubic metres, I think is these days, of blinding, and several of us nearly killed ourselves putting them into potholes. A week later they'd all been churned out. The whole of the car park needs to be regraded professionally to give it a good surface. I feel that should be done by the council, along with the separation, the fencing to the woodyard. But I'm happy to support your suggestion on the gabions, bearing in mind that a lot of the people that volunteer to work in Norsey Woods are of a very mature age.
Councillor Schrader.
Thank you, Chairman. I echo what Councillor Headley has said. Like him, I used to serve on the committee, and I probably should declare a sort of interest in the sense that I'm an ordinary member of the Norsey Wood Society. I'm not one of the volunteers or anything, so I can't take any credit for that. But they do a fantastic job of work in the wood. I think it's the jewel in the crown of Billericay East, certainly, and probably Billericay generally, and it attracts visitors from across the whole borough. So I think it's a very worthwhile investment for this committee. I think that Norsey Wood would not be what it is if it wasn't for all the hard work and efforts that the Norsey Wood Society put in. As Councillor Headley says, they are all volunteers, and I think let's be honest, if it was just left to the council, I don't think it would be quite as stunning and spectacular as it absolutely is. So I'm very, very much in support of what you're proposing. So it'll have my vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schrader. Any other members wishing to speak on this? Okay, so those in favour of the proposal as read? Thank you very much. That is unanimous. As I said when we started the meeting, items 5 and 6 are applicable to my daughter goes to Mayflower School, so I will recuse myself. I also made the apologies for Councillor Schrader, whose daughter also goes to that school, so I shall hand over to my very good colleague, Councillor Barnes, to continue the meeting.
Right, so item number 4, which is a proposal to fund award Mayflower High School with £4,631 and 52 pence for the purchase of equipment and supplies to develop wellbeing and increase physical activity opportunities, and this will come from the Billericay East Community Priority Fund. Yes, so we've obviously looked at this, but essentially what they are asking us to fund is some table tennis sets, balls, footballs, other sport and equipment, and some benches, picnic tables, etc. I think, anyone got any comments? Okay, in that case I'm going to take this one straight to the vote. Are we happy to fund this request? All those in favour? That is unanimous. I will just add as a proviso onto that, so that we are not seen as currying favour, if we could take the opportunity just to drop a little note to the other senior school in Billericay, the Billericay School, and suggest to them that if they would like to apply for some funding, we would obviously be interested in any application they may have. Item 5 then is a £500 funding award to Mayflower High School Parent, Teacher and Friends Association for the purchase of paint and supplies to decorate the sixth form room, again from the Billericay East Community Priority Fund. Any comments? All those in favour? That is unanimous. And at that point I shall hand back to our chairman. I'll just go and grab him.
I shall watch the webcast later to find out what happened. Item 7 is a request for £22,600 funding to Billericay Cricket Club for installation of new cricket nets and artificial service. Again, sounding like a broken record.
Aren't we on item 6?
Oh, sorry, I apologise. Item 6, £1,500 investment per selected date for the delivery of the crunch service to be delivered in Billericay from the Basildon Fund. The available dates that we've been given are the 19th of July, 20th of September, 4th of October, 7th of March and 21st of March. In consultation with members, I know we also were looking for locations. I think it was felt that having a crunch on the 7th and the 21st of March are too close together, so therefore we only really need 3 rather than the 4. And the locations that we have allocated for that are Hannekins on the 19th of July, Little Bursted on the 4th of October, and a further venue to be determined on the 21st of March when we found a venue that is suitable for that particular ward. But again, if any members have got any comments, happy to hear any comments and look forward to what you have to say. Any members? Councillor Moore.
Does that mean the 15? It's less than the £1,500 because we're only going to have 3 visits instead of 5.
Thank you, Councillor. So to clarify, it's £1,500 per site. So each incident is £1,500. And just to make members aware that we need 3 or 4 of the area committees to sign up to each of those dates to make them valid in terms of the support costs around that, the supervisors, and sharing those amongst the site. So it is a cost per site. So it's 4,500 for 3 sites.
So, if I'm understanding that right, whereas before it was going to be £7,500 cost to the pot, it's now only £4,500 if we go ahead with those 3. Is that right?
It's 4,500 for 3.
Yeah. Any other comments from members? Are members in agreement with the proposed dates and venues and proposal?
Yeah.
All those in favour? Thank you again. That is unanimous. Now we can move to item 7. Obviously suffering from premature cricketing. £22,600 funding award has been requested for Billericay Cricket Club for the installation of new cricket nets and artificial surface from the Billericay Believe in Basildon Fund. Again, in line with what we've been saying earlier and the principles that we've laid down, my view is that £22,600 is a lot of money. And it is a huge chunk of the pot. But what we can do is fund the indoor nets. That's a sum of £5,000, and in keeping with everything else that we've done and proportionate to the amount of money we've distributed to other organisations as well. So my proposal would be that we fund the nets, but we do not fund the other part of the proposal from Billericay Cricket Club. But again, this is for members to come back, comment and make a decision. Anybody wish to speak? Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I think that proposal is really good and in line with what we've talked about on the other items, so I fully support that. Thank you.
Any other members? Okay. All those in favour? Thank you. That again is unanimous. Item 8 is a proposal which was actually something that I asked to be put on the agenda. Members will know that the co-op in Queen's Park closed a couple of months ago now, and feedback that was coming from the area at the time of just prior to closing from the staff of the co-op and the people using the co-op was that there was a concern amongst the elderly people with regards to how they would then be able to do their shopping, given that Lidl's build and opening is scheduled for 6 months' time. What I wanted to do was to see whether or not there was any way we could pick up that, and whether there was a vacuum or something where we could provide a service and something useful for residents and people locally. So myself and our officer Jenny Squibb, who I thank for her time, we went and visited the numerous elderly people's accommodation that are orbiting that particular site. We had conversations and did a survey to members of each of those as to whether they would use it. And having seen the result that came back, it was a bit of a mixed bag. To be honest, a lot of the folk now have said that they've made other arrangements, or in this day of internet, you know, they've grasped the nettle of ordering their food online. And the conclusion was that there isn't enough need to actually warrant spending the money that would be required to actually provide a transport service that then might not be taken up. So while the idea was laudable in its inception, the actual reality is that we're not going to get the take-up. So my proposal would be that we shelve that particular idea, but of course it can be on the back burner should we get a overwhelming array of elderly folks saying no, please get us to the high street. So my proposal would be that we shelve that particular thing. Councillor Barnes.
Yeah, I agree with you that there doesn't appear to be the immediate demand for this. So I think it's sensible not to proceed with it. But I would like to congratulate you, Chairman, on identifying it as an issue and indeed bringing it to the committee, because I think it is something that we need to be aware of. That when a local facility like a supermarket, particularly one that's been there as long as that site has been there, is closed for a period of 6 months, it can lead to significant challenges for a number of people. So it's great that other arrangements have been made, and I think on balance it's better to probably not proceed with this proposal, but nevertheless I wanted to put on record both mine, I'm sure the rest of the committee's gratitude for you sort of working up this proposal in the first place, because I think it was a good idea, even if in the end the take-up doesn't justify it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Councillor Barnes. So that concludes the funding for this particular round of the Area Committee. But we need to vote on the proposal to shelve. Those in favour of shelving? Thank you again, that is unanimous. And that now does close the funding for this particular round of the Area Committee. Mr Henry.
Just really a comment around the funding applications. So we're clear. The funding criteria, there was one application for Mayflower High School, but although it's been split into two items, it is one application. So I think that's just worth clarifying in case anybody else wonders why we've received two applications from them. We haven't. It's one application.
No, it's just
two items.
It applications, and I've just checked the criteria that obviously you can only fund one organisation per year. They can only apply once per year. So it's just whether your proposal is that you combine the two, because obviously I think they into one bid.
My understanding is one application is from Mayflower School and the other is from the PTA. So I'm perfectly happy as chairman, as long as the committee is to treat those as two separate applications, and for the purposes of that, we'll approve both, I think.
Sorry, Councillor, I think that they're both from the PTA school, the PTA.
Right. Okay. Well, in that case, are we able to proceed with both? Yeah. Or we can proceed. We can do one of two things. We can either treat them as a single application, which I think we're perfectly happy with, or if it really is going to cause a problem, then the committee could choose, just as an aside, to award £500 more than for application number 4 than they were going to in the original proposal, and that would cover the shortfall for application number 5. So, from an officer's point of view, which is the more straightforward solution?
I think the second proposal would be the most suitable solution.
Right. Well, in that case, I will propose that we. Sorry, can I have the? Can I have the agenda? Yeah, I don't know how much it was originally though, so I've just got to work it out. Thank you. So it's 4.6. So on item 4, then I'm proposing that we increase the amount of funding to £5,131.52. All those in favour? Okay, that's unanimous on the members that are eligible to vote. Thank you.
So that concludes this round of the Area Committee. I want to thank all members for their attendance, especially on such a warm day. Safe home, and see you in 3 months or so. Thank you.